Hi, welcome to Learn Domain. Today we are going to discuss about what exactly HL-7 is all about. Especially HL-7 is a health level, which is a kind of set of international standards which will be used to transfer and share data between various healthcare providers. In reference to the HL-7, it is majorly focusing on fewer things like HL-7 is the one which is majorly used specifically for bridging the gap between the health IT applications and as well as makes sharing healthcare application data easier and more efficient when compared to the older methods. Most healthcare providers use a variety of applications, that everything for billing to keep up with patient information, all that. But the major problem is that the kind of communication between these different types of softwares, which is very hard to achieve, even though they often need to talk to each other. At the same time, another layer of problem arises when two healthcare providers need to share information. This problem arises more. By keeping view of all this into an account, HL-7 provides several standards and as well as guidelines to help software vendors and healthcare providers store and uniformly moving data. This way, applications can use the data without using special software for conversation or needing to send paper copies, all that stuff. To make it very short, HL-7 aims to make sharing data easier, which is turned into reduces the administrative burden on providers and staff while improving care delivery, all that. Now, when we are talking about the categories of HL-7 itself is concerned, wherein HL-7 is the one which is majorly used of these categories like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and so on. HL-7 categories, the first one is called Section 1, which defines the standard system integrations and compliance methods. These are the primary standards and possibilities, the most popular among the categories. When we talk about the Section 2, this states the foundational standards that users can build and help define the standards and technology infrastructure they plan to use. When we are talking about Section 3, which helps link messaging and documentation standards for providers, followed by this fourth section details how these EHRs, which is called electronic health records, are constructed and managed using profiles and models. Whereas Section 5 outlines the methods of use, the implementation, and includes support documents for other categories. This section may also serve as the supplementary section for other standard categories as well. When we are talking about Section 6, which explores the rules and references used to develop programming structure for software and aids in standard development as well. Last but not least, when we're talking about Section 7, which educate users and providers the tool to help aid in the development and adoption of HL-7 standards are all about. Now, when we are talking about when we are talking about the standards of HL-7 itself is concerned, these are the standards which normally used. The first is called as structured product labeling. The second will be called as clinical context object work group, followed by this continuity of care document, clinical document architecture, at the same time version 2.x messaging standard. Now, when we talk about structured product labeling, when we talk about this structured product labeling, when we talk about this is a kind of specification is a document. In this version, the kind of specification of a document which markup standards that specify the structure and semantics of the content of the authorized published information, which combines as medicine licensed by a medicines licensing authority and all that. At the same time, an SPL document is specially created by an organization that is required by a law to submit product information document because it is possible for the information to be provided. At the same time, it is responsible for creating a marketing of a product or any other person or organization compelled by other motives to submit information about the products. Whether originally creates or not, this includes original manufacturers, repackages, relabels, and public agencies or private information providers where to submit public information documents, recipient of product label documents, and any person or organization, including the public at large or the agent public, all that stuff. This is where majorly when we talk about structured product labeling is all about. When we are talking about the clinical context object work group, when we talk about this, clinical object work group majorly focusing on the kind of areas which are to be focused more on the kind of information we are going to provide, which majorly provides about the information which majorly focusing on the kind of information which is to be provided to understand about the kind of emphasis on the point of used applications. At the same time, the kind of mission of HL-7 CCO work group in the is to define the standards, which enables the visual integration of healthcare applications as well. At the same time, these applications are visually integrated when they work together in ways that the user can see in order to enhance the user's ability to incorporate information technology as a part of care delivery process, all that stuff. This is what generally the clinical context object work group is all about. Now, the third point, which is called when we're talking about the continuity of care documentation and all, generally this is a joint effort of HL-7 International ATSM, where the CCD fosters interoperability of clinical data by allowing physicians send electronic medical information to other providers without loss of meaning and enabling improvement of patient care. CCD is an implementation guide for sharing continuity of care providers. At the same time, patient summary data used by HL-7 version 3 clinical document or architecture, where this release to CCD establishes a rich set of templates representing the typical section of summary records and expresses these templates as a constraints of CDA. These same templates for vital signs, family history, plan of a care, at the same time, one can then be reused as a CDA document types, establish interoperabilities across a wide range of clinical uses and all that stuff. Now, when we are talking about clinical document architecture itself is concerned, especially in reference to the clinical document architecture, it's a kind of document which markup standards that specify the structure and semantics of clinical documentation for the purpose of exchanging between healthcare providers and patients. At the same time, it also defines a clinical document as having the following 6 characteristics, where something like persistence, stewardship, potential for authentication, context, wholeness, and as well as human readability, all that. Last but not least, when we are talking about version 2.x messaging standards itself is concerned, this is a messaging standard which is a workhorse of electronic data exchanges in the clinical domain and arguably the most widely implemented standard for healthcare in the world. This messaging standard allows exchanging of clinical data between the systems, which is also designed to support a central patient care system as well as more distributed environment where data resides in departmental systems, all that. At the same time, whenever the additional information on the V2 SOGI data exchanges and all everything will be appeared here. So this is what generally the kind of standards which normally HL-7 will be provided. So this is all about HL-7 is all about, especially which normally we use this in healthcare organizations and healthcare management systems, or at the same time the kind of insurances relating to claims, all that stuff. This HL-7 and all everything is being used. For more information regarding this, followed by any kind of training needs, please reach out to the contact details which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.